joined right now by Dan Favale, who does the Hardwood Knocks podcast, writer for Bleacher Report. Dan, how you doing, man?
I am fantastic. How are you doing, Keith?
Right before we started recording, you told me you were exhausted. You don't have to put on a mask. You can be honest with the listeners.
I bring the energy, especially when I'm coming on your podcast. I will.
No, that is good. Podcasters, we talk sometimes with artificial enthusiasm, I'll say. And it is good that you're professional. You turned it on. A lot of us are like, yeah, I'm good. Thanks for asking. I'm so tired. I wish James Harden would stop.
It helps that I'm excited to be here too.
You're excited to be here. Yeah. So we're going to talk about free agency, which it's already kicked off. Like it starts Friday.
Like April. Yeah.
It's 6 p.m. Eastern, but also like, aren't there some kind of new rules where you can't actually sign a deal? You can announce a deal. So is there going to be like this? It used to be an avalanche of like deals at midnight. It's like Luol Deng and Bismack Biyombo did what? And it was all just one after the other. Now, like, I don't even know. Like, so I'm traveling this weekend, like a lot of Americans. It's a holiday weekend.
Oh yeah. I'm like, that was brave of you, but it's probably pretty common.
But it's like, am I supposed to, like, I guess I'm bringing my podcast equipment. Like, what if, like, are the Grizzlies going to do something on the day of free agency? They might do nothing. They might leave the rush spot open. But like, I don't know. Again, I don't know how this whole weekend's going to work as far as like, will it be a slow drip of news? Will it be the huge amount on like Friday night? And then people feel like we have to put up our Saturday, Sunday podcasts. So I don't know.
Where podcasts typically go to die. Yeah.
Right.
I would think it's going to be like an onslaught.
Okay.
Because there is that moratorium, as you mentioned, where it's like deals can't be official, but like this stuff is worked out, most of it. And I think maybe it's different because the CBA in full was just released. So if these teams are still spinning their wheels trying to figure it out, maybe that could make a delay. But my guess would be, especially because I don't know how many years it's been June 30th now. I think it's been 2. And it feels like the day before each one, we've actually had certain reporters, not so much Woj and Shams, but like a Chris Haynes or a Jake Fisher or Mark Stein. They've had like deals and destinations like that morning, saying like it's expected that Lonzo Ball will end up in a sign and trade to the Bulls with something. Like they have the exact figures already. So my guess will be it'll be like a contract dump, and it'll be very impressive as always that this has all been negotiated in a new CBA within seconds of free agency beginning.
Well, so some of this new CBA stuff, I'm curious about how it affects this breaking news, where breaking news, James Harden has opted in to the final year of his deal and is going to be traded or is requesting a trade. It sounds like, am I getting this language correct? Because requesting a trade is now, I believe, punishable by a $150,000 fine. So I don't know. Like, I guess probably the legal language is going to be publicly.
Yeah. For sure. I think
like as long as he doesn't say it.
I think it used to be like, because I think publicly it used to be like 50,000 unless I'm mistaken. So like maybe they just upped it, but I feel like normally it's requested through agents and stuff. We very rarely see players come out and say.
Woj's exact phrasing, sides are beginning to work together in exploring trade scenarios. This is beautiful because now the Sixers can more cleanly build around Melton. They can focus on finding a better fit, right? It's over. You don't need James. You got
now
Melton.
You can max out Shake too. I know that.
I mean, you got you no joke. You got Embiid, the reigning sham MVP, but you have the reigning MVP and Embiid. But like, you got Maxey and Melton. Shake's not terrible. If you can get, I mean, everyone's talking about the Clippers. Like, if you can get, I'd take 30 games of Kawhi Leonard. If you can get 30 games of Kawhi Leonard for James Harden, yeah, all right, I'll do it. Like, that sounds fun. Like, honestly, I don't think it's going to make the Sixers that much worse. I know James Harden was good last year. He's a great table setter, but like, he wants to play slow, man. And like, modern basketball is not walking the ball up the court. You're leaving points on the table in that. I mean, maybe I'm just too weird where I like jumped on the Sixers bandwagon because of, my one specific guy last year. And I was watching him play and I'm like, why are you inbounding the ball so slowly? Like, go score. Like, the defense isn't ready. Go score. And he's like, well, let's walk it up. Walk it up.
It's too much too because Joel Embiid likes to play slow, and so you like someone who can inject some pace in there. I the thing, and I don't want to date your podcast inadvertently. I just can't figure out, the Clippers are built to set up all these deals for James Harden,
Yeah.
but is it everyone saying, oh, they're going to get Paul George? And like, are we sure? Like, look at what Bradley Beal just went for. Like, are they just going to cobble together expirings, a pick, and Terrence Mann? And like,
Why
that's
would
how.
yeah. So if you're the Clippers, and this is fine, this is dated. We're recording this the day before all of free agency opens. Like, why would you trade Paul George if you're the Sixers? Like, I mean, Paul George is a better asset than James Harden.
I agree. And
he's a better player, just flat out.
Definitely in the playoffs, he's a better player.
Even playoff P with the jokes we make about him. Maybe he gets hurt more in the playoffs, but like, I think Paul George is underrated at this point for me.
Yes, and this I just came off a Bleacher Report live stream, and I posed this question, and I don't want to ask you a question on your own podcast, but I'm fascinated. If you're the Clippers,
that's good podcasting, dude. You ask me back. I'm not kidding. It's interactive. Don't make me drive the ship.
If you're the Clippers and you have to give up one of your star players in this deal, I think that's debatable whether you would want to do that at all. Are we sure that Paul George is the one that you want to move?
No.
Wouldn't you prefer to move Kawhi?
100%.
Okay.
Kawhi has zero value, right? Kawhi only has value if he's like publicly says, fine, I will go to that city and I will report. Yeah. I'm not going to play all the games, but like, no, Paul George is a legitimately good player. He's an all NBA caliber player who's much more consistent than Kawhi. Like Kawhi's coming off an injury, another injury. I mean, I don't know all the factors for, like, if I'm the Sixers, you're not supposed to like play two timelines, but like if you could get just a couple of picks, like a nice young player, a usable player. Like, I mean, I know so the reporting is out with like the Clippers having interest. There's also some interest in the Knicks. There's no one on the Knicks I really want. I mean, you can't play Randall. You can't play Randall and Embiid together. That's disgusting. But
if you're the Knicks, conversely, you can't play Brunson, Randall, and Harden together. I mean, you talk about slow.
That's also disgusting.
Yeah, and so I don't think it'll be the Knicks. I'm with you. I think, a lot of people are focusing on like the Paul George Clippers stuff, and that you do have to send James Harden to some extent where he wants to go, because he could have just opted out. Like, that's his leverage in this situation, is he's allowing you to trade him. But if I'm the Clippers, I mean, you already mentioned you would trade Kawhi for Paul George. Like, are we even sure that why are you making this deal if you're moving either one of your stars because of all the concerns you mentioned about Harden? His age, he's probably played through more injuries than Kawhi, but like the hamstring and lower body issues have been cropping up, and he has been legitimately disappointing his entire career in the playoffs. There's never an in-between. It's either, James Harden turned in one classic game for every 7 stinkers that he laid, it feels like.
What about the angle? It's actual legit contract year Harden, because he can't be extended. So he'll be an unrestricted free agent next year. So you're getting contract year Harden. You're getting best behavior Harden. You're getting possibly works out in the offseason to come in good shape Harden.
Isn't that what they just had this year? And look how that ended in Philly. Like, it was still a contract year. He took a pay cut. So you knew he had the option. And it's like, yeah, but it's still a contract year because you want to make that money back. He took a pay cut
because he was being magnanimous. Remember, he wanted us. Everyone look at me. I took a pay cut so I could come back.
Did it again?
This team win.
His option's like, I think 10 or 12 million less than his actual max salary. So he did it again too. I understand. But if I'm the Clippers, like I feel, I guess this is my roundabout way of saying, I think people are going to be shocked at how little the James Harden trade actually gets the Sixers wherever he winds up going. I don't think if you get Paul George, I'll be pretty shocked. That's
the whole thing. Let's put a pin in that and let's talk about your breakfast, because we can't break format too bad. Dan, have you had a breakfast recently? Are you feeling peckish? Do you need like a late afternoon pick me up? Tell me about your breakfast.
I actually am starving at the moment. Yeah. And my breakfast was a protein shake, and then I had 7 rice cakes with some jam on it. So very, very uneventful.
What kind of jam?
Grape.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You seem so disgusted, right?
Yeah, I had visions of Julius Randle and Joel Embiid playing together. Impressions of rice cakes with jam. It's not my cup of tea, so to speak. All right, now going back, we did it. We got other formality. Your breakfast. Any kind of like return for James Harden, and maybe it'll happen the next 40 minutes before this show gets to your listener ears. But yeah, I'm with you. could be underwhelming. We saw what Bradley Beal returned, which honestly seems fine. When everyone's talking about all these Dame Lillard trades, and like I pitched one where I'm like, what if Miami sends 2 firsts, and what if they even keep Hero? What if I worked out a weird salary matching with like just they can keep Hero. Why do the Blazers? They don't need Hero. Like Anthony Simons has a conversation that I'm better than Hero. Like I'll listen to that argument, but so like it's not that. There's not that much additive by adding Tyler Hero. Like, oh wait, now I have to sell this. Great. Like I don't want to. But I think the return for Dame Lillard could similarly not be this overwhelming haul if in fact it goes down that road. Because like, first of all, you got to find a team, one, Dame wants to play for, and two, can pay him $50 million a year in a couple of years and is willing to do that. And there aren't that many teams. And like, if you look at a fictitious trade or what might actually be the trade for Dame going to Miami, and you're like, oh, Miami should give up more. It's like, well, Miami doesn't have more to give up. And then you're like, well, the Blazers should get more. It's like, nope, sorry, that's the offer. Like, you can't be like, they should take a better offer. There are no better offers. That's the offer. Do you want it or not? And I think, I don't know if it's new CBA related. Is this just new? It's just the way the NBA is now, where it's like, you have all these top free agents. And I made the joke on a previous show, like, you have all these top free agents that nobody actually wants, or like very few teams want. Like Kyrie's the best available free agent. Maybe 2 teams are interested, like, and it's like James Harden, like, all right, we're going to trade. So he's not actually a free agent. Congratulations everyone on Jeremy Grant. You're now the 4th best free agent available, with James Harden taking himself off the market. So I don't know. It's just the new NBA where you got to be even more hyper conscious about your salary slots on your team. You can't pay dudes $50 million. And most teams, I don't know if it's like the has-beens, like the small market or whatever. There's like 25 teams who aren't involved in any of these conversations ever.
Yeah. And the 2 things that stand out, and you mentioned the Dame Lillard stuff, and a lot of people always view it as, well, look, he has a lot of time left on his contract. They can send him anywhere. So maybe there are better offers out there. These teams don't send their stars anywhere. They always work with them, whether they have a no trade clause or not. And I do think, look, this Harden situation brings up, it furthers that change because these top guys aren't hitting free agency. And Harden's case is unique because with fewer stars entering free agency, you might think that that scant few would have a bigger market. And it feels like teams, because of how punitive this new collective bargaining agreement is, not just when we're talking about 3-star formations, but like it gets harder if you have to max out 2 guys. It does get a little bit harder if they're older in their career and they're qualifying for those larger maxes. I kind of feel like this could be, do I think this is going to be a trend? No, but I do think if we rewound it, like 3 years ago, would age 33, age 34 James Harden be a no-brainer max contract candidate?
Right.
Probably. Now I'm not so sure. And so does that, we talk about the middle class getting squeezed as part of the CBA. I think we might just see some older stars where, like, if you're not LeBron basically, or a Steph, that you're maybe not going to have max contracts available to you as far out. And so this does feel like the new NBA where, we'll talk about free agency. Maybe someone like a Jeremy Grant moves around here and there. But if you're going to get that star, that big name, even a top 35, what is Beal? Top 35 player at this point? Not that he was a free agent, but you're going to get top 35 players via trade, and or you draft them, and that's just not going to happen via free agency anymore.
Yeah. I crack up a lot when people are like, oh, you're getting Dame. He's got a lot of years on his contract. Like that's a bad thing. We all recognize that's a bad thing, right? Like
at the number. Yeah. It's like,
at that number.
That's not a great thing.
Paying him 45 this year. Cool. Tons of teams are interested. Paying him 60 4 years from now, massive problem. Like that's a thing where like, oh, we can't do that. Right. Yeah. I don't know if the new CBA, it feels like it's crunching every team, and it feels like, I don't know if this is the intended consequence. Like Eric Gordon, all right, got waived, or his contract wasn't picked up by the Clippers because it would have cost them $110 million in luxury tax payments. That makes sense. All of us, even if we're like Ballmer has more money than anyone on the planet, that feels like a steep price for Eric Gordon, or that feels like a steep price for a matching salary that you're going to use in a trade. But like, I don't know if this is what the owners wanted, because now the 25 teams who are dodging the luxury tax this year Well, they lost out on all those luxury tax payments they were going to get from Steve Ballmer. Yeah. Like every Indiana Pacers organization that's like, we will never pay the tax because we want our $10 million disbursement from the league of the other tax. Well, guess what? You just lost a good chunk of it because of the new CBA. Like, I don't know what the trade-off is. The trade-off, we're like, all right, well, no one else is, we don't feel public pressure to spend more money. Like, I honestly wonder if in their efforts to cap their own spending, to be like, oh, I don't ever want to be in a situation where I feel the pressure to pay these taxes. Well, now you've lost out on money. Like, I don't know where the trade-off is. Maybe they still made the right call.
I think from their perspective, it would be, there should be in theory more talent redistribution. It's like, yeah, you're not getting those luxury tax payments, but there should be a case where a player better than Eric Gordon doesn't return to a really expensive team and maybe becomes available or accepts a contract from a team he normally wouldn't consider. And then you're probably just hoping, even if you're not part of the talent redistribution, it makes it easier for you to go deeper into the postseason, and you'll take the revenue that's associated with that over whatever the luxury tax payments are. But you're right. I think, look, let's also not discount the fact, I don't think anyone really talks about this. Are we even sure that like these bigger market, high spending owners were firmly against this CBA? Now they just have this built-in excuse. Like, do you want us to pay Eric $110 million in luxury tax penalties?
We'll never know. Gordon? Yeah. I feel like you suggested an ethical component of the redistribution of talent, or like Eric Gordon, he could help another team. So, I mean, I think he's obviously pretty old, but he's still a shooter, and he's got a lot of gravity, spacing gravity, and like he could help somebody. Like he's more useful on maybe the Lakers than being the 10th guy on the Clippers. And maybe that makes a league with more parity. It makes better basketball to watch. I am, I guess, cynical though. Like, making better basketball to watch is on the list of priorities when they did the luxury tax payments. So right. I'm not sure. So I'm actually looking at the Clippers. Like, the Clippers could, because of Ballmer's willingness to pay the luxury tax for so many years and collect all these gigantic salaries, like they could cobble together enough money without including Paul George or Kawhi. And that, for me, makes it, I think, way more appealing. Like, I don't know, again, what's the price? Like, would Morey swap James Harden for real weak? I mean, Robert Covington, return to the process. Okay. That's like a third of the contract matched right there. You could throw in, what do we got?
Terrence Mann's got to be in there, right? I mean, like, if you come out of this deal without Terrence Mann, I feel like that's a loss.
Yeah. You would think any of the useful players, like, I mean, like if you add Norm Powell, you add Terrence Mann and like Covington, and then I feel like if you can squeeze 2 picks out of that, I call that a day.
I think they can only only trade 1 pick.
Is the Clippers can only have one pick available? I feel like they were regenerating, but I don't ever study this. But still, like, I mean, Norm Powell is useful. He fits on the Sixers, like in my mind at least. But you know what I'm saying? Like just another. He's now my 6th man behind my Maxey Melton starting backcourt, and the guy can fill it up. And then I don't know. Again, there's not much young, exciting prospects. The rights to Kobe Brown.
Yeah,
the guy's name.
Brandon Boston Jr. Maybe.
Brandon Boston Jr. Yeah. Now we're talking. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they could make a trade for something that small. I mean, the obvious one, which is like really funny to me that it wasn't mentioned in the short names. Like, does Damian Lillard not want to go play with Joel Embiid? Like, that's the one right there. It's really obvious. Like, it was mentioned before. It was mentioned years ago. Like, what if they swap James Harden and Damian Lillard? And that.
Why does James Harden want to be in Portland, and why does Portland want James Harden though? Would be the question. I would be hysterical if the Sixers just turned around and traded him somewhere he didn't want to be after he opted in.
I think he should Nets for Ben Simmons
and some picks, maybe.
Yeah, like, Ben Simmons and picks. Now Harden can build the team he wants in Brooklyn, and there's no more Kyrie or Kevin Durant to steal his shine.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there would be like a funny destination that James Harden would actually like not the Clippers or the Knicks, I guess, that he would be okay going to. Because if you were going to go to the Rockets, you wouldn't opt in. And so the Rockets are clearly out. Like, you would have just left and went to the Rockets.
Taking
I would
a ton
assume.
Of money. Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. I agree.
So I I mean, you mentioned and the talent redistribution on this to just circle back, it'll be kind of an interesting case study because you could say, well, now Eric Gordon goes somewhere else, but is the result of all this that he just takes the minimum to play with not the Clippers, the Lakers or something? Because then like that's an unintended consequence of all this and it backfires. But the James Harden stuff specifically, my guess would be he winds up with the Clippers, and my guess would be it's for the trade packages that your trade package is closer to actuality than these Paul George dreams that I think a lot of Sixers fans and media are sort of clinging to. I mean, like you could even maybe the Sixers decide to go the route of forget Norm Powell. We're just going to take Rocco, Morris, like a bunch of expiring money, Batum, and like try and work like clear our books in advance of next year that way. But then Tyrese Maxey it's so weird. But I would think the one player that I would almost guarantee would be involved is like if you come out of this deal without Terrence Mann, it feels like you're doing the Clippers just like this mega solid. And I guess, yeah, there's value in getting that 1 first-round pick, but if you're planning on winning with Joel Embiid, I don't know how valuable that singular pick and Terrence Mann even is to you. And so I'm fascinated to see what the asking price or the fetching price for James Harden winds up actually being.
What if we get Harden and Tobias Harris for Kawhi, Rocco, Terrence Mann, Norm Powell? Just swap the decks around.
I would love for it to be Kawhi, just to be like, Kawhi's a fantastic basketball player when he's healthy, but that would just be sort of like, okay, we're done. Because everyone's even talking about, Kawhi and Paul George are extension eligible again. I'm like, look, I'm all for players getting their money. You can't pay Kawhi right now. You can't do it. Like with all these injuries that are cropping up. And so the Clippers were just like, we're going to get out of the Kawhi business entirely. That would be, I think, probably the most entertaining / hilarious outcome of all this is that Kawhi ends up in
another potential hilarious outcome for me, at least, is James Harden could steal Damian Lillard's spot on the Heat. Like, if I'm the Heat,
that if you're Miami, James Harden, Miami nightlife, and like Jimmy Butler's workout schedule just don't really feel like they're gonna.
Once Harden starts passing all those body fat index tests, maybe it's what he needs. Maybe it's like, man, I gotta go enroll in like military school to get my life in order. I don't know.
If you're the other thing is like maybe he would want to go to Miami, but they seem obsessed with Dame to where they kind of just
the Dame fit is better.
Stuff.
The Dame fit is better. But I don't know. This is wild. So I asked you to come on, pre-free agency, basically. I wanted to go more deep cut. And here we are talking about all like the big name, main ESPN topics. I wanted to know like what are Dan's favorite, maybe most interesting free agents. So let's pivot to that. Where like we said, we don't have to talk about Kyrie or anything, or Dame. Who are your most interesting free agents on the market? The guys that say, if your team signed them, you would be the most excited, or guys where you're just like, I am dying to know where they end up.
So I think this guy falls under both of those categories. I'm very interested to see what happens with Bruce Brown. He was so instrumental to the Nuggets winning the title. And we all know that they can only offer him like $7.8 million max. And I would guess, I don't want to guess anything in the new, cap CBA climate. I'm assuming someone would give him the full non-taxpayer mid-level, which is $12+ million. Is there like even a cap space team though? That would be, from like Utah or San Antonio, and he's only 26, 27. He feels like someone who could get paid a lot, but are we going to see sort of, we saw it with the Clippers where they re-signed Nick Batum for a cheap deal and then they gave him a lot of money after that second year with the team. Does that happen in Denver? But if he leaves, I actually like that's a material shakeup, not just to the team that gets him, but to the team that just won the title and doesn't really have the financial means to replace him. And so he's like, of the non-star free agents, I think him and maybe I'm still not convinced that like Jeremy Grant is just going to go back to Portland. I know that's been sort of the reporting, but I could see just like Indiana coming in with like a wild offer that maybe Portland doesn't want to match. And with the Blazers saying they want to win around Dame, but acting like they're interested in just the opposite. How much are they actually going to pay him? So those are kind of like the two non-star impact names that are really most intriguing to me entering June 30th.
Yeah, there's been a lot of chatter about Bruce Brown today, specifically on Thursday. Jovan Buha from The Athletic is saying that the Lakers are interested and have a good shot, apparently, of acquiring Bruce Brown. I believe they would only be full MLE there. I know they're getting rid of Mo Bamba, and apparently if they don't they don't trade Malik Beasley in the next 25 minutes or something, they're going to release Beasley as well. But like Bruce Brown as a number one target for them makes a ton of sense.
Oh yeah,
he'd be a great addition, but he'd be a great addition to so many playoff teams. And like, there are so many teams like just like the Cavaliers or even the Mavericks, or I mean, the Timberwolves got rid of Taurean Prince. I wouldn't mind him on the Timberwolves. Maybe not an ideal fit alongside some of the bigs they have, but like the dude kind of
makes a lot of sense.
Where
after they trade James Harden to Philly, like they should, I would assume they would have maybe they'll have the non-taxpayers still after that. He can make a lot of sense in Philly now.
Yeah, so I would think his bidding begins at the full MLE. Like if I'm him, if it's like a not ideal fit and someone's offering less than that, I'm probably staying in Denver for my 7.8 or whatever and being like, you'll pay me next summer. Yeah, I do think he's one, and he's one like for the Grizzlies where I'm like, if he signs for less than the MLE somewhere and we didn't just offer him that, like what, who cares if the fit's not great? The guy plays ball. Like the guy's a good player, and like, just get a good player. If you get a good player for the MLE, like everyone should be doing that. So yeah, I'm with you there. That I find Bruce Brown incredibly intriguing, and he's one of those few actually impactful guys who has a chance of changing teams this year. The Jeremy Grant one is funny. I never mind. I said we were going to talk about Dame. I can't. I'm moving on. So table that thought. You just imagine what I was going to say. No, what's another free agent name or somebody who you're interested in? And you can go even deep cut too if you feel like it.
I want to go deep cut, but really quickly, I'd like to mention just because he's sort of like Kyle Kuzma's just trapped in Washington now. And it's when you hear all these names, I feel like I've heard Harrison Barnes linked to more teams than Kyle Kuzma. And it's like, who's paying Kyle Kuzma? But is it just going to be like he has to go back to the Wizards and they're going to hope to move him later? I don't have a good Kyle Kuzma team.
Well, anymore. So isn't it? I don't know if it's Jake Fisher, but like I've seen the Kuzma to the Kings thing, and that
which is like, Kuzma is good, but you gave up a first-round pick to open up this cap space. Is Kuzma that much better than Harrison Barnes?
That's what I'm saying. Like you wouldn't. Like, why would you do that? Like, you need defensive stoppers. You need a big you can pair with Sabonis that makes more sense on the court, and like Kuzma is not really that. Like you don't want a Kuzma Sabonis 4-5. Like that's
it's fine, but like Kuzma's not the best shooter either.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I'd rather, if it was Jeremy Grant, like I get what they're doing, or if you want to go with a non-shooter, Draymond Green would make more sense. So he's just fascinating. So I'm assuming there will be a team, even if it's via sign and trade, that will pay him, but who is it? The free agent though, this should be deeper cut. Ayo Dosunmu in Chicago.
Yeah.
His shooting fell off a cliff this year, but he's really good. And I've seen people mention like, oh, the Bulls might not pay him. If there's a multi-year deal worth more than his qualifying offer, which is like $5 million. And I'm like, I was talking like a month ago. I was like, should the Spurs like poison pill Ayo Dosunmu and offer him like an average salary of $15 million over 3 years or 4 to get the Bulls not to match? So if he's just out there and gettable, as someone who can finish at the rim, did shoot 37% from 3 as a rookie on low volume, and just defends. He is 6'5", and he defends positions 1 through 4. And he's youngish, like relative to NBA standards. I know he was an older guy coming out of the draft. If the Bulls are just going to let him go because they have Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan and Caruso in the Ball contract and they want to keep Kobe White, I think so many teams like Minnesota, Boston after losing Marcus Smart, like if you can get him for the mini MLE or even the like non-taxpayer MLE money for a couple of years, like I'm absolutely doing that. As pretty much there's not a team that I would argue really against doing that.
Yeah, I support you, but of course, I'm like, it's easy to convince me about a defensive guard. I just love them. Like any guards who are like, oh yeah, that guy can help you. And it's so funny where there's these huge numbers for guys who score, where it's like, oh yeah, Kuzma, man, I don't know, 25 a year or 30 a year. And it's like, oh, Dosunmu, yeah, he's probably going to make single digits, like you said, taxpayer MLE. And I'm like, that guy can fit in a rotation basically anywhere. And if you're a proven commodity of like, I'm a young, hungry defensive player who can fit in anybody's rotation, those are worth $10 million easy. So like I don't know if I'd be as outraged as Bulls fans finding out that Vucevic's contract is fully guaranteed, but like Bulls fans are like, what are we doing if we're not at least keeping, like, keep Colby White, keep Dosunmu. They're going to be relative bargains because there's not the teams with cap space. Those aren't their targets. The Rockets aren't splurging on Dosunmu. Bring him home, Chicago. I love that. That's a good deeper cut. You want to do what's another cut you got?
I guess I actually had to ask a coworker if he's too mainstream now because it feels like every team that doesn't have money to spend mentions him. But Yuta Watanabe, and I would say what fascinates me is
you hang out in the wrong watering hole.
Someone
That's a very
told me,
deep cut.
Someone told me to get off Twitter, turd, when I asked my coworker.
No, that's a touch grass, Dan.
No
one at the bar is talking about Yuta Watanabe. It's only in Slack channels of podcasts.
I'm trying not even to be like an a-hole about it, but I'm just wondering, why do we all just assume, oh, he'll go to Phoenix or Miami for the minimum? Like, if I'm any of these teams with cap space, he would be a great fit in Indy. He could still fit in with Utah. I mean, Houston just needs good players. I doubt they would look at him.
Utah to Utah. I love it.
Yeah. Like Detroit, like I would throw him. I don't know what the money is, but like if he's only looking at minimum or mini MLE offers and I'm Indy and I'm Detroit and I can get him for like 2 years and 16 million, like what, that doesn't set you back. I would absolutely do it. And so I think he's someone who should, like, I think it'll either shock people that he gets like a short-term windfall, or I'll just be outraged that he's going to end up in Golden State or Phoenix and they're inevitably not going to play him because he doesn't take enough shots on the offensive end.
Yeah, he's a guy where I can't decide if we get into podcaster brain and we're like, this guy's pretty good. Like, he was not I think necessary. It's fair. Like, he was not a necessary piece of the rotation for a team that was mediocre. So like, I don't know. I know he's got tools, and he obviously shot the great 3-point percentage last year. So this is a guy where sometimes I worry, like, did we get carried away? I mean, for me, he's like John Conchar tier, or he's like 10th, 11th guy on basically any team. You're happy to have him. Is he going to be in your 7-man rotation? No, I wouldn't think so. Maybe if you're the Suns and you have no players. So in that situation, are you going to pay more than a minimum? I don't know. Like, I also am sympathetic to the idea that he helps you. Like, he's a guy you can just put out there and who can soak up minutes in the regular season. And to me, yeah, why wouldn't you pay that guy $7 million a year? At the very least, I'd pay him $5 million to keep him from signing for the Suns for the minimum. I wish more teams did this. I don't know why.
Memphis, which is like,
I don't know why there wasn't a single Western Conference team last year that was willing to pay Kevon Looney more than $7 million. Where it's like, the Warriors can't pay him. Someone just take that guy. No one did. Yeah.
He got about as much guaranteed money as JaVale McGee did over a 3-year deal. That is outrageous. I'm here for more of that. Spend some money to keep guys off of your rivals. I would 100% do that.
I think I'm right about this. I think the Heat, the most they could have offered Caleb Martin last year was like $7.7 million. Like that was the maximum they could have offered him. And someone told me that maybe he took a hometown discount. He was like, oh, I'll stay here for less. But like, why didn't a single team offer him $10 million? Like,
do you ever get the sense in that case that just because we've seen teams try to pay these guys that come up in Miami or San Antonio and then they don't work out as well, they're just like, we're going to steer clear of this.
Justice Winslow, Josh Richardson corollary.
Right. I'm wondering if that gives teams pause. Like, is there really something to, I think like that.
Max Strus, buyer beware.
I would pay him, though.
On Max Strus, Pacers.
I'm too high on Max Strus. Yeah, I would still, but like, I'm wondering if teams are thinking along those. That's the only thing, because I'm with you. Caleb Martin, I mean, his brother Cody got more money per year than he did, which is just like,
well, initially Caleb was on a 2-way. Like, like literally every team passed on him because like he did not have a roster spot 2 years ago. And then he joins the Heat on that 2-way, then gets converted to a real contract and then gets paid a modest contract. Then he almost won the Larry Bird Eastern Conference MVP trophy or whatever the Eastern Conference Finals MVP trophy
in the finals.
Then
after that series too.
So I disappeared. No, I'm glad you mentioned these last few because they're deeper cuts. Like I just mentioned one, Justice Winslow, unrestricted free agent. Is he still an NBA player? That's what Keith cares about. That's what I'm looking forward to in free agency. I'll be real, Dan. I was hoping I was setting you up for a guy that I wanted to talk about that I'm obsessed with, but you haven't mentioned him yet. And I just want to get your feedback for my own edification on Dylan Brooks. All I care about in free agency is where does Dillon Brooks go? Like I'm so excited. Like
It's Houston, isn't it? It like
there's these reports for Houston. I look at their depth chart and I don't understand why. And
well,
they're saying it's like a 2-year deal in Houston. Like, okay, fine. I still feel like, I don't know, Trailblazers, Kings, Mavericks could all do something weird like this. And like that makes me kind of excited.
I feel like some people swayed too far off of Dillon Brooks. I still believe he's one of the most damaging offensive players alive because of the confidence he has in his ability to just take shots.
Yeah.
Like if you Dallas is a good example. Like if you were them and you can get to your bigger MLE or he's willing to sign for the smaller MLE, like why wouldn't he? I suggested that. Mavs fans got mad at me while I was doing a stream for Hardwood Knocks, and I was like, why wouldn't you take a chance? Like you need pure defense, and you don't have to put the ball in his hands as much as Memphis would at times. I don't know what his market's going to be. I've heard everything or read everything from mini MLE, so $5 million, to like the Houston stuff is 2 years and like 16 million or something like that. And I don't know. I'm assuming it ends up somewhere in between, but some of these teams with the bigger mid-level, I think if you need defense and you already have enough offense, like why not try like a 2-year deal, like of $25 million or whatever it is? That's not the end of the world.
Yeah, I agree. And it's also a really fun one because I've basically been a Dillon defender for a couple of years. And then he just went so far beyond the pale in the playoffs where it's like, all right, I guess, yeah, he stinks. Now we get to see basically like, will he help or hurt whatever team he goes to next? This is just adding data points. I'm excited about it. Like a lot of people are like, anyone is better than Dillon. And so like, that's going to be a thing the Grizzlies are going to put to the test. Like, all right, let's just play anybody instead of Dillon. So yeah, there's a lot of information I think to be gleaned by what happens next.
There's definitely something to the effect of your team, who you were very important for, said immediately after the season was over that you would not be coming back under any circumstances. Like there's definitely,
I mean, I still don't think it was the team because like that was a damaging report to the Grizzlies. Like if that report hadn't gone out, everyone would be talking about Dillon Brooks coming back to the Grizzlies and there'd be at least some form of a market for him. I think it was damaging to both parties. Like it felt like it lost Dillon Brooks's free agent leverage. And so I don't know. It's a weird report that I don't know how it got out there. Because
I guess I see like Dillon Brooks's dad responding to it. I mean, that would be next level.
Yeah.
You release the report and then you respond to the report like you're super aggrieved by it. And I don't know what to make of. They then turn around and get Marcus Smart, and so like clearly they were moving on from Dillon Brooks, but did you know that in advance? So yeah, there's definitely layers there.
Yep. Well, anyways, we'll all find out maybe in about 24 hours where all this is going to end up. So Dan, thanks for taking some time on this busy, exhausting day for you to come on Fast Break Breakfast. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and I look forward to you coming on again sometime.
Most definitely. Thank you for having me as always. Take care, Keith.